Some other virtues that are talked about a lot in the Quran, obviously truth, speaking the truth, being truthful. Truth tellers and people of the truth are obviously on the side of God, as discussed in very sometimes dramatic ways in the Quran. The Quran says, truth has come and falsehood has vanished. Truly, falsehood is always vanishing. Right? So you want to be on the side of that which comes from God, not that which is always vanishing. Right? But another very important verse of the Quran, in the, let's see, is it, I'm trying to remember, it might be in the 13th chapter of the Quran. It says, very graphic image, it says, God hurls truth at falsehood and smashes it. Right? Very powerful idea, right? It's tied, of course, to the idea of idolatry, right, which is very important in Islam, smashing the idols. But falsehood itself is an idol. And so you always want to be on the side of truth. And where this was very clearly laid out in the Quran had to do with witnessing. In the Quranic judicial system, it was based solely upon witnessing, right? When the Quran is revealed in the 7th century, you don't have DNA testing and fingerprinting and gun residue and all of this, right? So when you wanted to prosecute somebody, you had to rely on witnesses. That was it. And so witnessing was extremely important. It was the sole criterion by which people would be accused or not accused, sometimes of very serious crimes, sometimes of capital crimes. And so witnessing truthfully was taken very seriously. The Quran says that you should tell the truth all the time. You should bear witness to the truth all the time, even if it is about a close family member, even if it is about yourself. There's no right to plead the fifth in Islamic law, right? The right against self-incrimination. You have the duty to tell the truth. And anyone who is ever found to have given witness that was false is never allowed to testify again. His witness is permanently discredited, or her witness, for the rest of their lives. So, if one was to bear false witness, for example, in the very serious case of accusing a woman of sexual impropriety or illicit sexual relations, the punishment was considered to be very severe, as laid out in the Quran. Right? 80 lashes. So telling the truth, of course, was a very important virtue. Related to that, the idea of sincerity, always opposed to hypocrisy in the Quran. And the Quran often mentions people who are hypocrites, right? Also often is talking about people who are hypocrites. When Muhammad lived in Medina, there were a group of people who had accepted Islam but did not really believe in it, and in fact had it in for Islam, so to speak, appeared to accept Islam, but really were secretly working against it and had no desire to support it. And those people were referred to as hypocrites. So the idea is sincerity. And of course, again, sincerity is not something that people always have. It's something people work toward, right? There's always a certain degree of hypocrisy that lingers around in us. But the idea of always trying to work toward that quality of sincerity. The idea of patience or trusting in God, very, very important. The idea that you don't understand that all of the good things that you have in the world come from God, or that you can thwart through your own foresight all of the bad things that might happen to you in life, but you simply have to put it in God's hands. You have to do the best thing you can for yourself, and then you have to trust God. Again, this idea of moderation. There was a story about some people who decided when it was time for Friday prayer, all the Muslims would go into the mosque to pray. Someone raised the question about whether or not, like if you came on your camel or your horse, whether you should tie up your camel or your horse, lest someone should steal it. And someone said, well, there's no, if you tie your horse up, you go in to say the prayer, you're not showing any kind of trust in God whatsoever. And Muhammad's response was, tie up the camel and trust in God, right? Be reasonable, right? Be sensible about this, right? But in other words, take precautions and be responsible, but at the same time recognize that things are not in your hands entirely, right? And to let that go.